Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of EM Weekly. This week, we're going to talk about back to school. I know the South, like you guys start early for some reason. I don't know, glutton for punishment. You like to be in the hot school. Your schools are probably air conditioned. I live in the North. I don't know how that works. But for a lot of the country, we're coming into the start of the school year. This stuff is still relevant, even if your school's already started. We're going to talk about things that schools should be considering. So if you're a school, any employee within a school, and then things that parents should be doing to help their students prepare for the upcoming year and to hopefully be ready for any type of incident that may occur. So first, let's go to our ads. We'll get those out of the way, and I'll be right back.
The Readiness Lab is trailblazing disaster readiness. Early access for the highly anticipated course, Emergency Management Response for Dynamic Populations, is currently live. Space is limited to 40. Go to thereadinnesslab.com/training to learn more. The L3 Harris Extreme 400p radio solves problems and is specifically designed for emergency services. How do we know? We field tested it with medical, urban search and rescue, and collapsed and confined structures. This radio is amazingly tough. Check out the L3 Harris Extreme 400p radio at l3harris.com right now. How do you spell Doberman Emergency Management? EOP, OEP, HVA, HMP, Thyra, TTX, Drone, PDA. Whenever you need an expert, Doberman Emergency Management field experts are there for support. Contact an expert at DobermanEMG.com today.
Okay, I'm back. So real quick, I was going to do an entire episode on kind of where Maui is right now and the impacts of the fire, obviously, on Lahaina. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And I had this whole episode that I actually previously recorded, and I was trying to be very, very, thoughtful, because I think there's a lot of emergency managers that are out there that are making a lot of sort of assumptions and maybe trying to Monday morning quarterback more than they should at this point. And even if they're right, which unfortunately it sounds like some of the accusations and sort of concerns may be founded, the agency is still responding to this emergency. And I think accountability for mistakes is absolutely critical. But I don't know if using our position and our voice to sort of distract the agency from its mission right now is the best course of action. So just think about it when you're posting. I think there's certainly criticism, like I said, that is founded. The director of the agency stepped down today, I believe, or last night, amid concerns of decisions that he made. And of course, people are calling into question his experience. But as emergency managers, what we should be doing right now is not trying to maybe trash an agency that is currently struggling in just an unbelievable disaster, just a terrible, terrible tragedy. But we can take stock of stuff we can do immediately to sort of respond to that. So, just real fast things to think of. One of the biggest concerns was emergency notifications. They had sirens. I've heard all sorts of discussion. Well, they're tsunami sirens, they're weather sirens. They were all hazard sirens. They have digital, they're electronic digital sirens. You can do whatever you want on it. It's actually, if you go to the Hawaii Department of Defense website that manages their siren system, it says they're all hazard sirens. So instead of don't, whatever, the incident occurred, they didn't get used. I don't know why. We'll figure that out in the after action process. But for you, start to think about your PACE plan when you're doing public communications. As emergency managers, that is the most critical thing. I honestly say it's probably the thing that we can do that has the most impact on life safety is communicating an emergency. So think of your consider a PACE plan, if you will, for your public communications, your primary, your alternate, your contingency, and your emergency. Primary goes down. What's your backup plan? If your backup goes down, what's your contingency plan? And if all else fails, so this is why don't build exercises that are basically designed to pat you on the back for doing a good job. You want to really test your systems. Make sure that don't be afraid to break stuff. That is the whole point of this. You don't want to be in the national spotlight because you did not forecast far out enough the type of issues you may run into. You didn't dig deep enough to identify the issues you may face. So of everything that's sort of occurring right now, I think the two things that I have personally taken stock of is what are all of the ways that you can communicate in an emergency to get information to people so that they can make their decision. Think of this as like the options-based, training that we're doing with active shooter, right? Run, hide, fight. That's essentially a 3-level plan of, if you can do this, do that. If you can't do that, do this. If you can't do this, do that. Like you have several options. And at the very end, the last resort is, fight for your life. We need to sort of think of that in the same way with when we're communicating disasters. Like we need to provide opportunities and decision-making capabilities. We do not have to direct down to the granular level what people need to do to get out of a situation. Sometimes we just have to tell them it's happening. And it could be a real dirty and, the last thing you want to do. But if a siren could potentially wake people up to be like, oh, something is occurring. And, sirens are sort of universally recognized as something bad is happening. It might cause people to go and go outside and look around and start to make decisions for themselves. So I guess what I'm saying is if you're in the worst situation possible and you have, you can't do all the stuff that you have planned for and procedures for, don't just give up or not sort of take that additional step. Just think about that. And again, I don't know that that's what happened in Maui, but I'm just saying from like my personal perspective, I was trying to reflect on why wouldn't I use that system and sort of going through like what those options are. And then also, if all of my other systems are down, is there some sort of capability similar to that I might be able to tap into? So reflect, but give Maui the ability to sort of respond. Don't distract them and make, like they're beat up. Like this is just an absolute tragedy. So we don't need to like further that. This is why we have after action, processes. And then the other thing is professionalization of emergency management. I think we really need to take into consideration, the Maui emergency manager sounds like maybe did not have all of the capabilities. This is something we've talked about a lot, in these appointments or hiring processes is making sure that, when you're hiring for these positions that folks are qualified. So anyways, I'll leave it at that. We're talking school safety. It is the start of the school year. We're entering National Preparedness Month in a couple weeks. So I thought, let's go and talk about school safety. So I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of the school. I've been very fortunate. I've been working with my school district. I'm volunteering with them. I have kids in school. My wife's a teacher. This is really, really important to me. And so we spent the summer doing a lot of work and talking about how our school district will be better, more ready for this coming year and the issues that we may face, as well as better prepared to sort of respond to any disaster. So, if you work for a school, if you are a school administrator, if you're an emergency manager that has schools in your district, what are some things you can do at the start of the year? Well, first and foremost, the start of the year is a good time to sort of reflect and review all of your plans, right? Make sure your emergency operations plans are up to date. One thing that I recently saw at another school district was, they were looking at the town emergency management plan and it was missing names of principals. So they didn't even have contact information if something were to occur to get a hold of. In fact, one of them was several years out. It was a principal had, left the school years ago. So ensuring that information is out, distributing that plan to everyone. Really, everyone in the school should at least be familiar with it and understanding it. Training and drills. Think about the types of training and drills that you can do. Obviously, there are some that are mandated. You have your fire drills. You usually have lockdown drills. A lot of schools are moving to options-based drills, which is awesome. But drilling doesn't work. Exercises don't work if you don't have people trained in it. So make sure everyone's trained in those procedures and those policies. and think of it as crawl, walk, run. Be super smart when you're dealing with kids. You don't want to traumatize them because that's just going to make them shut down and not actually learn anything from the experience. Same with teachers. I mean, like, not everyone is especially for us that work in the emergency, services world. We're kind of used to this thought process, but a teacher is not, a cop, a firefighter, an EMT, an emergency manager. So make sure you're very thoughtful in how you're delivering this stuff. And again, also drill things that are actually real threats. So as part of your emergency response plan or your emergency operations plan, you should be conducting regular hazard vulnerability analysis, understanding if your sort of risks and probabilities and hazards have changed over the course of the last time that you've done this. So, for instance, adding some stuff, we've added more emphasis on after school activities, sports, because that's where there's been issues. So, looking at, building out some of the plans and procedures for sporting events and stuff. So really just go through all this stuff, figure out your hazards, make sure that you're training for the right stuff. Active shooter, of course, is always like way up there, but again, it's astronomically small probability. Do not get so hung up on that you forget the other things that you may face that are high probability, high consequence. I'm not saying don't do active shooter stuff, obviously, especially for parents. That's always going to be on the forefront of their minds. But test your communication systems. Not a terrible idea at the beginning of the year to send out a message that says, hey, this is a test of the blah, blah, blah school district emergency notification system. This is how we're going to reach out to you. We're going to tell you this kind of information, et cetera. I highly recommend that a lot of school systems, when they use their communication systems, they don't follow the same sort of mass notification strategies that we do on the emergency management side. So if you're in there, I recommend looking at the Warn Room. That's Dr. Sutton's website that talks about best practices for messaging. There's a new iPause best practices guidebook that just came out from FEMA. It's really good. Actually, it's really, really good. There's a ton of good information about building messages for different levels. So usually even those systems have, text message, email, phone call. So understanding the capabilities of your system, test that ahead of time. With that, it means that you also need to make sure that you're sending out information so you get updated contact info, et cetera. Check all of your safety equipment supplies, make sure that your AEDs are in the cabinets, that your, any blood, first aid kits, stop the bleed kits, all those things are adequate. That stuff isn't expired. It isn't all like rotted out, whatever, missing. I think that's a good thing. Usually during the summer, your facilities folks have tested fire alarms and sprinklers and all that stuff. Just as if you have a responsibility in that, ensure that stuff is being done. Think about equipment you may need. We're entering hurricane season. We're in hurricane season. So if you've got stuff for that, sheltering kits, like a lot of schools are also shelters. They're also unification centers. Go through all those kits, make sure everything's up to date. Checking with, making sure that you are prepared for all of your community, right? Ensuring that any functional needs or accessibility needs are met, that you're thinking about the entirety of the community in your planning efforts, and that, how you communicate to them, how you're going to support all of your community in the event of an emergency, really, really important. Talk to your first response agencies in the area, talk to your emergency management agency, just touch base with them. Hey, we updated our plans. Here's some new stuff. Hey, we have a new administrator. Here's their contact information. And they might have a bunch of resources that they can provide you. It's also a good time of year, fire safety month or fire safety week is in October. But like getting all the different public safety agencies to sort of come in, introduce themselves to staff and make sure that, nothing's changed in their procedures as well. Just touch base. Transportation plan, make sure that nothing is changed before the start of the school year. If you need to evacuate the school, if you need to set up a reunification center somewhere and bus students around, have roads closed. Do you have any issues in transportation? I know every school district basically has a bus shortage. So in an emergency, if you don't have bus drivers, what are you doing? Because if you need to evacuate a school, I can promise you that saying, well, we didn't have enough bus drivers is not going to be a solution. get parents involved. So when you communicate out, send a message, we send all these messages out at the beginning of the year. I'm currently filling out all of my school like registration stuff, but also communicate like, hey, this is how we're going to communicate to you in an emergency. So you can anticipate if something were to happen, this is what to expect. Set some standards ahead of time. Hey, if there's an emergency, please don't come to the school. You're actually just going to impede the response and make it more difficult to get help there. We will tell you where to go. You may already have pre-designated reunification centers. You might just say like, hey, the best thing you can do is maybe stay home, or if you feel like you have to go to this location off site, and we'll provide more information from there. And then try to make that an open dialogue. Like, what are the things that they're worried about? Answer those questions so that you can allay those fears and start out the school year on a strong note. Take care of your staff and yourself, emotional, psychological support. Make sure you have, all the mental health stuff built in with that. So, student deaths, disasters that impact schools, all this stuff, it just has such a huge impact on the school personnel. You need to think about that ahead of time, make sure that you have that stuff sorted out. And student mental health as well. Do you have the counselors and support that you need if something were to occur to support the students and help them through that? Cybersecurity, again, another good time of the year to when everyone's sort of checking their email and they're in it. How stuff like to identify whether or not it's official messaging from the school. Like, don't click on links that are asking you for this information. You won't ever need to provide this information to the school. We have that stuff on file, that type of stuff. All this stuff that, as emergency managers, we kind of do in a cycle, schools should be doing every year. And especially at the start of the year, it's just a really good time to sort of come back, get your staff trained up, talk about any changes, set the pace for the rest of the year. And just build on whatever good stuff you've been doing. I highly recommend, if you don't have one, you build safety teams within your schools and a safety team within the district that can meet monthly, every other month, whatever, regularly enough that you're capturing things that you're learning throughout the year, as well as keeping everyone sort of proficient, right? Thinking about this stuff so that if it happens, you're ready to go. We're actually this year introducing in our team a mini tabletop that we're going to do at the end of every meeting. 15 minutes, just talk through a scenario with a few injects and just flex our muscles and make sure that everyone is ready, if something were to occur. And to, it's really hard, especially during the school year, to find time to do really big training and exercising. So these little nuggets just keep people thinking. It doesn't let that muscle atrophy. So, and as parents, what can you do? You do hold a responsibility for your children at the school. I know a lot of people just like to, sort of think it's, the school's got it all figured out, but there is obviously a huge amount of responsibility as a parent to also check in on your school and make sure that's ready. So understand all the policies, procedures that are expected of you during an emergency. Do you know where you're supposed to go? Do you know how you'll be notified? Are you getting the emails? Are you getting the phone calls when they send out messaging? Is there everyone involved that you need involved? Are both parents or guardians, connected? Do you need grandparents? Like who needs to be in the notification process? And just understanding your role in an emergency and how you can help to make that response even more efficient. So during reunification, what kind of stuff do you need to know? You need to have your ID, right? You need to have all the information for your child, name, maybe description, because, in the event of an emergency, kids may be traumatized and not remember what their last name is or where they live or who their parents, are, their names. So, giving your student information so that they have their own means, like do they have your phone number? Do they know their address at home? All this stuff, teach your kids this. And then talk to your kids about what happens in an emergency, because it's scary. Like they don't know what a fire alarm means. They don't know what an active shooter exercise is. So talk to your parents, or sorry, as parents, talk to your kids, communicate them effectively at their level. Like, try to break down how things are going to occur and what you're going to do and how you'll get to them, and just comfort them so that they know that, it's unlikely anything is going to happen. But if it does, here's what we'll do. And here's where I'll find you and I'll come get you. It's really important for parents and guardians to sort of be that voice, because again, the schools are very, very good at communicating this, but just think, who would you like to hear this hard information from, So again, provide accurate information, make sure that all of your stuff is up to date within the school. So when they send out those forms at the beginning of the year, it's not like a nice to have. Like, emergency information, really, really important. God forbid something happens. You want them to be able to reach you, and you want them to, basically provide you whatever information they can in an emergency. So make sure that's up to date. Consider stuff to send to school that might help them. A lot of, if you're in an area where, you're impacted by hurricanes or tornadoes or something, if there's stuff you can give your student to sort of provide them comfort or capability, think about that. Talk to other parents in the community, maybe take initiative and set up, some sort of readiness club. I don't know, where you're talking to other parents and talking about, well, what will we do if there's an emergency? Like, let's say we know there's a railroad between my work and the school. If I can't get there, could the neighbor or a friend, another parent within the school system, come get the kids? So just really coordinate and make a community out of this. Social capital is one of the strongest indicators of success in an emergency. And that's basically how tight knit the community is and how much trust is in the community. So if you feel like you don't have that, there's an opportunity there to sort of build that and take some initiative on that. And maybe even set up a preparedness month event where you hand out information, bring in all the public safety people, do it as a PTA or even just as parents, trying to help each other out. Make sure you're checking in on your kids, right? I hate when the bad stuff happens and, they're like, well, the kid had all these warning signs, and parents didn't recognize it or they missed it. Understand what your kid's going through, check in on them, make sure they're okay. You don't want something bad to happen because you missed it. Don't be afraid to have conversations, hard conversations, and check in, what's going on in the school. Get the temperature of the school. What kind of stuff is happening there that might impact, your student or other students. So they'll get the packet, right? The family communication plan, the family evacuation plan. When that comes in the mail, go through that. That's comforting to kids for them to know, well, what do I do if the fire alarm goes off in my house? Where am I supposed to go? If I'm at school, how do I get a hold of my family? What am I supposed to do? Just through those exercises, you're going to build comfort, you're going to build familiarity, and that will make them, more ready to handle hard situations, and give them the tools to get out of situations. So really, really stress that it's really important to sort of take initiative on that. Be the example. We've had so many issues, everyone does, with sports and stuff, right? Parents just losing their minds, setting a bad example. You as a parent or guardian have responsibility to be the example for your children. So whatever you want them to be out in the world, reflect that. So stay calm, take initiative to, do things around your house to be more prepared. And just, show that even in an emergency, if you remain calm, you'll be able to respond better. So be that influence there. Check in with the school regularly. If you read things so our whole state has recently changed. They just legislated that now you have to have an emergency operations plan. There's access control stuff. So our first day of school is going to be much more complicated because there's actual legal requirements now for schools to secure the buildings. And there's going to be much more strict access control and, school visitor policies. So whereas before you may have been able to just basically wander in, talk to the, admin person up front, and then go walk down to the classroom, pick up your kid, that may not be an option anymore. And this is not just for like the, sort of active shooter scenario. This is just in general, like it is a learning environment. There's a lot of children there. And we don't need strangers or, people who shouldn't be in schools wandering around. And even as a parent, your sort of presence can be disruptive, right? It's true. I know like everyone thinks that like, yes, I have the absolute right to go get my kid. Of course, like if I want my children, I'm going to go get them. But at the same time, if I know the procedures ahead of time, it's going to make my life easier. So for instance, most schools now are going to require that you have some form of ID, because just because you say, oh, I'm Johnny's dad, that doesn't mean anything. You need to be able to, the name should be in the system somewhere that this is a, parent or guardian that is authorized to do this. This will also help schools with issues like, parents that are not supposed to, they don't have custody, or other family issues that might be brought to the school campus. So just understand those rules and regulations and what you need to do in order to make it easier for you and to make it less difficult for the school. And then finally, just be a good advocate, right? If you recognize that the schools or your district are not stepping up and doing everything they can. So I put up or shut up. There was a incident that had occurred around the state, and our school district responded in a way that I was like, it was fine. But I was like, just so you know, I'm an emergency manager. I'm trying not to, judge how you handle this too much. But if you did this, it would be that much better. And it would actually make your life easier. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Hey, is there any way you can come and volunteer? And I was like, absolutely, I'd love to. And that was, I think it was almost a year ago. And I've continued to volunteer. I love it. And I get to take part in helping my school be better prepared for emergencies and ready for whatever, they may face this year. So, especially if you have a skill set or knowledge and experience you can bring to them, like most schools are not going to turn you away. They're going to say, hey, do you want to volunteer and help us get better? And you should step up and do that. So yeah, school starting, it's, that's one of those government entities that is so critical. And when things go south, they go south so fast. So, the more we can do at the start of the year to get the schools ready, to get the parents and guardians ready, the better off long-term that will be if something is to occur. So anyways, as always, if I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you want to share comments, talk about this, I'd love to chat more about this. This is an area that we're very, very passionate about at the Readiness Lab and Doberman Emergency Management. We work with a lot of schools, K through 12 and higher ed institutions, because they're so important. It's where we're all built. And so we want education to be as safe and, accessible and functional as possible. And we want students to be comfortable that the school is going to do everything in its power to keep them safe. So like, comment, share. And like I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts or ideas and how to make schools, ready for the coming school year. And that's it. Chat with you guys later.